Is it possible to remember a passenger in your back seat who was never there? Or to watch a plane freeze in the sky? Or see a label on a can change right before your eyes? Today we're looking at evidence of quantum immortality, protective glitches that intervene to save a life, and a feeling that we're living in a simulation that is struggling to render. Today we have 6 true Glitch in the Matrix stories that I hope that you enjoy. Hello, Raven. Something is going on. I think this is my 3rd submission here, but I've been having nonstop glitches every single day now. This is the only place I ever feel comfortable sharing these experiences. I've mentioned here that I'm a truck driver. I drive roughly 8 to 10 hours a day, which gives me a lot of time to observe my surroundings and watch for discrepancies in this reality. So, for the past month, I've been doing a little test of my own. I have entirely too much time on my hands. From the time I start my drive in the morning until the time I park my truck for the day, I very intently pay attention and make a mental note of any vehicle that passes me with a distinct bumper sticker, unique phrases, unique name license plates, business logos, distinct paint jobs, really anything that sticks out like a sore thumb. I also have a very good photographic memory. Well, I'm seeing the same vehicles throughout my entire 8 to 10 hours of driving now. Every single day. In the most impossible ways. I mean, 3 states over, 8 exits later, fuel stop, 45-minute nap, and 2 stops for a bathroom break type of impossible. The same vehicles are passing me throughout my entire drive, daily. And I'm not talking just 1 or 2 vehicles. It's at least 10 vehicles a day. Exactly the same, passing me. Again, and sometimes passing for a 3rd time. This is almost like my 2nd job now. It's second nature for me to glance over at a vehicle and intentionally look for something very distinct on that vehicle that will stick out. But the frequency. I just cannot get over the frequency of these occurrences happening now that I am consciously watching for them during my drives every day. It started to make me feel like I'm genuinely losing my mind. But I know what I'm seeing. It's to the point that I thought about seeing a neurologist to rule out anything with my brain, but in my heart, I don't believe there is anything wrong with my brain at all. I think that's just the part of me that still wants a logical explanation for these occurrences. But the logic is that the fabric of our reality isn't as it seems. Also, on 3 other occasions while driving, I've looked up above my truck and saw a plane just sitting there, not moving whatsoever. Not only is the plane not moving, the plane is never high up in the sky like planes usually are. It's always scarily low in the sky. Then I'll look away from the plane for a split second, look back up, and the plane is completely gone, vanished. I've shared this occurrence with a friend and was instantly met with gaslighting. I've never been more embarrassed and frustrated trying to explain something so unexplainable. She doesn't believe in this type of stuff at all. And I know she probably thinks I'm insane, but I know what I saw, and I'll risk sounding crazy. The first time the plane incident happened, I looked up and saw the plane, quickly glanced at the road in front of me, looked back up, and the plane looked like it was miles away in the sky. In the literal blink of an eye. All I did was glance at the road in front of me. Then it was all the way across the sky. That's impossible. I immediately pulled over onto the shoulder of the road because I felt a panic attack coming on. Because here I am, again, not being able to grasp what I'm witnessing. And I've also noticed every time these incidents happen, no matter how many times it happens, I immediately get that heart drop feeling in my chest. The feeling you get right when someone gives you bad news. The feeling of impending doom. It's only for a split second, but I've noticed it every single time. It's like my brain's way of telling me, yep, that weird broken reality thing is happening again, pay attention. This submission was only about the frequency of the glitches lately, since I've started testing it out daily, and it's really blowing my mind. But I'll go into the other individual glitches in another submission. I'm just so thankful for this channel, and thank you for taking the time out to listen and not judge. The more I submit, the less crazy I feel. Hi Raven, new watcher here. Absolutely love your videos and everyone's stories. I've been binging them. I have a glitch that happened to me a few years back. I was driving a friend back to my house to hang out. I live slightly in the outskirts of town, a country-ish area. We were approaching the four-way intersection to turn at to get on the main road leading to my house. About 700 to 800 feet ahead. I looked in my rear view since I needed to brake soon and no one was there. I'm 100% certain of this. And so of course I began to slowly brake. I looked back in the rear view out of instinct, literally 2 to 3 seconds later, and there was suddenly a car right behind us tailgating. It looked like an older beige or silver PT Cruiser. I have no idea where this car could have come from. There was literally nowhere for them to turn from and be right behind us like that. We were surrounded by moderately thick woods on either side with a creek and drop-offs. Even if they pulled out from either side, which would be nearly impossible to drive a car in, I would have seen them pulling out, and their vehicle when I looked up the first time. It doesn't even make sense that someone would be driving in these areas, like I said. Not only is it practically impossible due to the thick, tight tree line and creek and cliff drop-offs, but even if someone did somehow manage to get their car on either side, it wouldn't be some quick action to get back onto the road. Like, I would have seen them angled or halfway pulled out, or headlights moving, or just something. But it was just nothing, and then suddenly a car appearing from thin air. This genuinely freaked me out. And that area is above an old cemetery, so maybe it was some ghostly encounter too, rather than a glitch? I don't know. The car didn't follow us, but I started bugging about it instantly, and when I fully explained it to my friend, who was looking at her phone when it happened, she also freaked out. Terrifying stuff. Also, that same friend and I had another weird experience a few months later, that same year together. This one wasn't nearly as jarring, but it was definitely freaky. We'd pulled up to an old cemetery, and I turned off the car, and after about 30 seconds of us sitting there collecting our bags and snacks and drinks, the radio started playing with my car completely off. Just straight noises. Like white noise with muttering. So, I guess we attract the weirdness. I really don't like driving on either of those roads anymore. Hello, as the Raven dreams. Hello. The following events have happened twice now. I don't know how to explain it, but I suspect your audience will maybe think it's a simple mistake or an unnoticed change, or maybe that I'm crazy. To an outsider, maybe, but I felt this with my own hands and saw it with my own eyes. It is physically real. So, to preface, this isn't to preach, I'm not judging anyone. I am a vegan who also suffers from a bowel disorder. For nearly 14 years, I have been reading the backs of labels of products in store for ingredients. If I haven't read the ingredients, I don't buy it. Or if it contains E numbers I don't recognize, I put it back. You could describe me as pedantic or meticulous when it comes to reading labels. I'll often reread labels, as stores are in the habit of changing ingredients without warning. To simplify, I go for no animal products and avoid spice if possible. There are these Richmond vegan sausages I had already examined the ingredients of, cooked, and then served countless times before. The manufacturer clearly intended for them to be like plain sausages. They were plain. Maybe even slightly herby sausages. having myself served them with notice and consent to others as I abhor the practice of cooking meat. I found no one ever complained that they tasted unusual or weird, and most said they liked the sausages and that they tasted like, again, real sausage. Bear this in mind for the next part. When I was out on a usual shopping trip, I go to the store and mixed amongst the usual Richmond vegan sausages was another flavor called curried bean flavor. I held the packet, physically examined it. It looked a bit like the original, but there were key differences. On the front were beans, and this graphic that looked like a sticker that said curried bean flavor. An elliptical circle with this reddish-colored border. A white background in the circle and reddish-colored text. I already knew it would be spicy. But, out of curiosity, I flipped it over and read the ingredients on the back. The ingredients included things like black pepper, mustard, and capsicum. All spices. It was basically the original sausage flavor, but if someone had added spice flavoring. Now, I will sometimes try vegan food at least once, even if they say they're spicy. Mainly so I have an idea for other people. I put the curried bean flavor in my shopping trolley with the strong intention of buying it, but in my mind an argument broke out, between the side that was curious and the side that was opposed to buying it because of my bowel disorder. Ultimately, after thinking how dumb a curried bean flavored sausage would be, and under strength of willpower over my health, I put it back and stuck with the plain. It is this moment, retroactively speaking, that I believe I broke the Matrix. A few weeks passed. I cooked the sausages with chips, or fries, as Americans might call them, and had ketchup. When I started eating, something burned my mouth. I didn't piece the events together at first. I thought it was the ketchup, as it was probably off. I didn't use it often, and the ketchup seemed to be the source. So, I replaced the ketchup for the second meal. The second meal also burned my mouth. I thought, wait a minute, did I accidentally buy the curried bean sausages? But that made no sense, because I only grabbed 1 packet of curried bean and 2 packets of the plain, and I already had 2 meals, so the math didn't add up. And I was sure that I put the curried bean flavor back. I went to my freezer and checked the recycling. Both were plain. What? I grabbed the 3rd packet in the freezer, unopened, which didn't say anything like new flavor, but explicitly said original flavor, with 0 indication of changes. I flipped it over. The back now listed black pepper, mustard, and capsicum. All spices. Spices that it didn't have before, with a strength that burned my mouth but never burned prior. Somehow, the plain sausages now had the same ingredients as the curried bean flavor sausages. What? I thought that this was some corporate BS or something. Shrinkflation, maybe. A stupid recipe change, a printing error. Anything. I went to the store so that I could compare the curried bean flavor, and there were none there. It was never sold. But I held it in my hands. I saw it with my own eyes. Maybe it was out of stock, I thought, so I tried looking for it online. No, the product never existed. I've checked on every shopping trip and have not seen it since. What the hell? And nobody had complained that the sausages tasted spicy or unusual previously, so I know they definitely tasted plain before. Which lines up, because they did not contain spices previously. I now can't have them as the spice is too strong. It was like someone got angry that I didn't buy the curried bean flavor, and then merged it with the plain flavor to force me to consume it regardless. Maybe this is a one-time glitch, you're thinking. But it happened again. Very recently. Another product, actually. It was tinned beans. Quite simple, actually. A new product simply called black-eyed beans and red kidney beans in water. The front said the words, black-eyed beans and red kidney beans in water. The back said pretty much the same besides some preservatives, and it had images of black-eyed beans and red kidney beans, imaged like a wallpaper-esque effect. 50 pence per tin. which seemed sorta high to me, but there weren't any good alternatives. Most single bean tins were 45 pence upward anyways. I purchased 3 tins to try them. They were grouped together on the shelf, and they all had the same appearance. When I opened the first tin, I carefully poured out the water, cooked the beans in a meal, and had it normally. No incident there. The second time, of which I was planning to have them in a healthy pasta meal, I opened the lid slightly, ready to drain it, when I jumped back. There was red stuff. Ah, heck, I must have cut myself, I thought. I had quickly withdrawn my finger as the bleeding looked severe. Red stuff in the tin, too. I must have cut myself deep, the blood's gotten into it. But hang on a minute, I thought. That's not blood. That's tomato sauce? I examined the tin. The label no longer said black-eyed beans and red kidney beans in water, but mixed beans in a spicy tomato sauce. There's no way that I would have missed it. It is that freaking spicy bean BS again. The black-eyed bean and red kidney bean wallpaper-esque effect was there, but now there was this cartoonish-looking tomato hidden in the bottom left. What? I spun around the back, and instead of 2 or 3 or even 4 ingredients, there was a mind-bogglingly long list. I read the list, so how did it change? I still have the tin, so I'll just quote the ingredients so you can see how radically it changed. Mixed beans, black-eyed beans, pinto beans, borlotti beans, red kidney and cannelli beans, water, onion, red pepper, tomato paste, sugar, modified maize starch, salt, yeast extract, chili powder, sunflower oil, garlic, basil, capsicum, nutmeg, and black pepper. All things guaranteed to give bowels hell. That's no longer simple plain tinned beans, but a full-blown spice meal. Like someone is absolutely determined to give me curried beans that will... A few years back, I was a support person for an elderly lady. We'd become unlikely friends, and although demanding, I often ran errands for her out of work hours. Shopping, paying her bills, things that she found difficult, as she had some trouble with mobility. A few times per year, I would travel to the coast and visit my granddaughter. Let's call her Jazz. And I know that my client, who I'll name Penny, for this story, had mentioned that her niece, Lucy, and Lucy's family lived in close proximity to the area where my granddaughter lived. I distinctly remember having a conversation with Penny and planning to take her, with my husband Jake and I, to visit her niece on our next trip. I remember the morning I left my house to pick her up for our trip. I remember being frustrated at the amount of luggage and medical equipment, and also her wheelchair, which took up the entire trunk of my car. I then had to rearrange everything to accommodate her belongings, and our luggage ended up crammed on the back seat with Penny, who, by the way, is a bit overweight. I could tell that it was not going to be a relaxing drive at all, and it added another hour to the 5-hour trip ahead of us, and at this point I was already regretting to agreeing to having Penny join us. After arriving on the coast, I dropped her off with Lucy, much to my relief, and went on to enjoy the weekend with Jazz doing all the stuff that a 10-year-old loves to do. Swimming, shopping, etc. Then, early Sunday morning, we went by to collect Penny from Lucy's. We said our goodbyes and drove across an intersection, and stopped at a gas station to fill up before heading home. We made it home, and that was that. On our next trip to the coast, a few months later, I passed the block of units where Lucy lived, and a feeling of dread came over me. I was remembering back to when I brought Penny with me, and just how annoyed I was that the basement car park was way too tight to maneuver my car to drop Penny closer to the lift, with Lucy calling out directions so I didn't hit any other vehicles. Not to mention having to unload Penny's many suitcases, her medical equipment, and that horrid big bulky wheelchair. I remember thinking to myself, thank God it was just that one time that I offered to bring Penny. I also remembered how hot it was in the morning we were leaving. I had parked on the side of the apartment complex and was about to leave, when all of a sudden, Penny realized that she had left items upstairs in the apartment. So she sent Lucy to retrieve her belongings, which, of course, she didn't locate until 45 minutes of searching had passed. So again, this all added more time to our trip. I recalled pretending to be patient and not showing my annoyance at the whole situation. All of a sudden, I was interrupted when my partner Jake asked why I was so deep in thought. I reminded him about our last trip and how annoyed I was. Then, to my astonishment, he says, "We've never brought her with us on any trip." What? I pointed out the gas station and reminded him that we grabbed a bite to eat to take on the road. There was no time to sit down for breakfast. Jake kept looking at me wide-eyed and kept denying that Penny had ever traveled with us. In fact, he didn't accompany us on the last trip either due to work commitments. Did I imagine all of that frustration? Was this a glitch? I'm still confused, and I'm sure that everything happened the exact way that I have described. I even remember the conversation had between all three of us to and from the coast. I still feel that anxiety every time I pass those units, and I remember how hot it was, sitting in the car, waiting for Lucy to find those missing items. Before I came across your podcast, most enjoyable too, by the way, thank you, I had not heard of glitches. So I'm sharing my story. It's because I'm 100% sure that this happened. I'm just not sure which universe it happened in. Hi, Raven. I actually submitted my stories on Facebook in an NDE group, but of course they never approved it. But anyways, I think I had 3 death experiences, and quantum immortality happened. I wish I could add my pictures to show, as it would make the stories better. But I'll make this as short as I can. 1. I was 13, and me and about 6 people, I don't remember who, were in a car and I was sitting on my cousin's lap. The car brakes, just stops working, and the lady that was driving had to do a hard turn. Everything went in slow motion. I saw everybody's faces, even my cousin's, whose lap I was sitting on. I remember he said, "Oh, shoot," in slow motion. The whole time I heard a ringing sound. After that, I don't remember anything, but a little part of walking the rest of the way to school. Every time I go past that way now, I don't remember exactly where it happened, but I always ask, how did she turn? There's a little sidewalk curb on the whole street, so how did she not hit it? 2. I was at my boyfriend's house at the time. He lived behind an army base. We were sitting on the couch, and our daughters were on the floor playing. I hear a big boom, and this big army guy kicks the door open. I swear I see him shoot both the girls and then point the gun right at me. And I hear that ringing sound again. I then wake up in my boyfriend's bed, and it was like a breath where somebody finally stopped smothering me. I was panting, trying to catch my breath. I go into the living room confused as hell. My boyfriend is playing a game, and the girls are gone, at their other parents' house. He was like, "What's wrong with you?" Because apparently I looked confused as hell. I really don't know if that was real or a dream, but it definitely felt real. 3. Now, this is the one that made me really look into quantum immortality, which I learned from YouTube's As the Raven Dreams. That's me. I remember me and my daughter's dad was arguing because I stayed in Council Bluffs and him in Omaha, and I had not taken my daughter back for school, and he said if you don't bring her tomorrow, it's going to be a problem. I was like, okay, cool. So, the next day, I'm going to work, and I see this bright light from the corner of my eyes. I was just like, nope. I literally ignored it. So, I got to work, and then on my hour break, I go get my daughter ready. I walk past the dark bathroom, and I see that same bright light. This time, I'm just like, heck no. So I go back and look. This time, I don't see a source of where that light would come from. So I go and get my daughter ready, and I'm really procrastinating, as I don't want to take her to Omaha. I tell my boyfriend, and he was like, well, don't go then. But I didn't tell him what my daughter's dad said, so I just said, nah, I'm just gonna take her. We leave, and I tell my daughter to put on her seatbelt. I then put mine on, something I never did at the time. So I get to the highway, and I'm just starting to cry, saying, I don't want to do this. Mind you, my daughter is sick. I gave her some meds before we left, so she was a little loopy and looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with her? I get on the highway, and about 10 minutes in, I hear a lot of bumping. At the time, I thought it was the street, but now I know it was that my tire popped. I'm going 60, and then bam, it pops all the way, and the car spins out of control. No cars in front of me, and no cars behind me. I hear my daughter screaming while the car is spinning in slow motion. I turn around to see if she's okay, and I turn back around, and then the airbag hit me. I remember being pulled in the air and the ringing sound, and seeing my car flip on the other side of the median. I don't know how long I was out, but I hear a lady say, "Oh my god, she's dead." I then pass out again. And then I hear, "Oh, I thought she was dead." I look over, and there are people checking on my daughter, who is now in the front seat. My car door won't open. The ambulance comes, I get out the passenger side, and I see now that the whole highway is full of cars, and my car is totaled right dead in the middle of the highway. Before I got hit, I remember just hitting the median about 3 times. About 2 months later, I then had a dream that I was in a white room with all my passed away family. Like, a room full of the ones that I never even met. I heard talking, but it was like background chatter. They just smiled at me and hugged me. I swear that my grandma's hug felt so real. They helped me lie down on a white bed and put a white sheet on me, and then I slowly raised into the air and they all stood around watching. I go in this like little pinwheel thing with colors I've never even seen. I can't explain it. Then I go around it twice, and then go back down and I look at my grandma, my stepbrother, and my aunt. They're all smiling at me, and then I close my eyes and wake up in my boyfriend's bed, peaceful. I'm happy, but with the crash, I'm just left with a bruised face, and my daughter has a little cut on her eye. I like telling my story, but it seems like the people I tell it to don't understand me, so hopefully my story is understood somewhere. Hi, Raven. I've been enjoying your podcast for 6 months now, listening as I do chores and repair projects. I would love to share my only glitch story with you. It involves what I believe was a life-saving miracle in the form of a technical glitch. In 2016, I was working in social services for the first time, and I experienced some very nasty office politics. My coworkers didn't know I was dealing with severe depression at the time. The situation in the office definitely made things much worse. I had begun to struggle with some dark thoughts, but I never spoke these thoughts aloud because it scared me. One afternoon, I was the only person left behind in the office, while all the other employees, clients, and the boss were at an event together. This arrangement was intentional and malicious, but honestly, I wanted to be alone that day anyway. I was doing busy work, cleaning up and arranging paper files. I was in a very bad mental place, so I decided to listen to a video of a U2 concert on my smartphone as I worked to occupy my mind. Between 2 of the songs, Bono began talking about the bad mental place he'd gotten to during a very hard time. This stood out to me, because some of the thoughts he admitted having were the same ones I was having. I get goosebumps and tears sprang into my eyes. At some point in the speech, for lack of a better word, he started talking about hope and what it was that got him through that bad time. He spoke directly to anyone that was struggling and asked them to hold on because things would get better. Then the video froze. Frustrated, I moved to a different part of the office to see if I could get a better Wi-Fi connection, as I had no bars in this area, and I had to rely on the office internet for phone service. No luck. I tried another spot and then another. I gave up and refreshed the video as I went back to my original spot and got back to work. The only part of that video that would play was the few minutes where Bono asked anyone who was struggling to hold on. No matter how many times I refreshed the video, it was just that portion that would play. Bono encouraging us to hold on and hope. Nothing before that, nothing after. Finally, it struck me that maybe God was trying to give me the message, not to give in to my illness. I said aloud, "I get it, thank you." As you can probably guess, Raven, I held on. I got the mental health care that I desperately needed, and things did get better. Within 2 months, I was accepted into a grad school program that had rejected me the previous winter. They called me to enroll, I didn't reapply. Within 3 months after the video incident, I had found a new job in a different field. I'm so thankful for that heavenly tech glitch. You know what's funny though? I was never able to find that video again. Not in my video history and not by searching it. Thanks for taking the time to read this. I hope you have a peaceful night. Thank you for taking the time to send it in, and I'm happy you're still with us. Ahoy there, mateys. Hopefully you are having a great day. That was a weird way to start that. Hopefully you're having a great day, my friends. Hopefully you enjoyed this collection of Glitch in the Matrix stories. Stories about the weird, bizarre, and strange things that happen in our... what do you want to call it? Existence? Simulation? Reality? However you look at it. The weird and strange things that happen. Yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed this collection of stories. If you did enjoy them, please do hit that like button. That'd be fantastic. I'd really appreciate that. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, please consider hitting the subscribe button. If you have a story you want to send in, go to astheravendreams.com or email us to astheravendreams@gmail.com. You can also go to the website, astheravendreams.com, and find other things, such as all of my social links, stories I've written, fiction stories, info on the book that I wrote, as well as places to listen to the podcast in longer format, if you so choose. You can also join Patreon or memberships to get early access to content like this. Never expected, but always appreciated. I'm very all over the place today. This weekend has had my brain feeling really, really frazzled. I've been feeling like I'm just kind of... I'm existing and just kind of drifting as things go, but I feel like I'm just not all here, I guess? I don't know. Anyway. The last... Perfect example. The last thing we do on the Glitch in the Week... The glitch... Can I pause and start over? No. One take. The last thing we do on Glitch in the Matrix videos is what we call the Word of the Week. Now, last week, the Word of the Week was winsome, and a lot of lovely and winsome people left their comment on the video. On the screen right now, and several moments prior to now, is a collection of all the comments I got on last week's video with the word winsome. I tried to get them all, but I know a few of them were sub-comments, as in comments under comments, so if your comment was in a thread and I missed it, I apologize. I try to get them all, but sometimes I miss them. It's not easy being cheesy. Anyways, thank you to every single one of you who commented last week with the word winsome. You all are amazing. Push the video harder. You know the deal. Now, this week, the word of the week is actually, in my opinion, a little easier. Frowsy. Frowsy. Musty or stale, having a slovenly or uncared for appearance. So if something is frowsy, it's kind of musty or just not cared for. It doesn't look cared for. So use that in a sentence. Get featured next, 2 weeks from now whenever I do the word of the week. Next week is a best of collection. So all that said, friends, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. I hope I see you again here soon. But until then, remember that you are loved, that you are valid, you are important. You are the best you that you can be. Do not forget it. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Until next time, my friends, much love and sleep well.